So recently, I was given the opportunity to playtest the new Altered TCG in Baltimore. I filmed a lot of the proceedings as a favor to the host, but I recently got an email from one of the team members saying that I could use this footage freely. So, with the disclaimer that what you are seeing is still technically a work in progress, I will talk about the gameplay of Altered and how it measures up. So the setting of Altered is that the world of dreams has appeared and people are trying to explore and settle on it. You play as a dynamic duo from one of 6 factions who want to be the ones to lay claim to these new lands and send out expeditions to try to accomplish this. Because it's the land of dreams, cards include various fictional and historical characters, a smidge like Fate Go, but actually living in their own element rather than being brought to our own. So the goal of the game is to get your 2 tokens, one representing the hero and the other their companion, who start on opposite ends of the land, and get them to meet in the same square in the middle. I'd say it's similar to Hot Wheels accelerators in that regard. This is because the requirements to advance change from space to space. The idea is that the character cards have 3 areas of expertise: forest, mountain, and ocean navigation, and the sections on the map will check for different stats. The starting gates check all 3, but the center 3 cards have these stats split between 2 sections. The idea is that you are contesting both sides of this land, the hero side and the companion side, by stacking characters over the course of a single alternating turn. Once turn ends, the characters on each side have their numbers totaled up, the winner in each category is declared, and then each player resolves progress based on what space they are on. If your side wins any of the categories shown on their current square, the pawn on that side advances forward by 1. This does mean it's possible to advance both of your pawns, as well as both players being able to advance the pawns on the same track. So immediately we have a bit of complexity. You are trying to balance between the 2 lanes, working on building your scores while trying to stifle your opponent from advancing. But there's an extra wrinkle here. The characters only last the turn they are played. At the end of the round, all of the characters still in play, along with the spells you played that turn, get moved to reserve. These cards can then be played again from the reserve for their reserve cost, listed below their play cost on a later turn. Although, as an additional wrinkle, at the end of the turn, you have to call your reserve down to just 2 cards, sending the rest to your discard pile. Also, cards played from reserve are given the fleeting effect, meaning the next time they would go to reserve, they are discarded instead. There's also the anchored status, which can be put onto characters, and the next time that character would go to the reserve, instead you remove the anchor token. There are also effects that can be activated by discarding a card from reserve, meaning the challenge is getting them into reserve in the first place. Of course, heroes have their own abilities to allow different decks and win conditions. Cards are paid for with mana orbs. It's an any card is resource system a la Duel Masters with the cards placed face down. You actually dump 3 resources from your starting hand of 6 on your first turn, then on later turns draw 2 more with no obligation to add to the stack. So in early game you're going to be adding to your mana orbs, in later game you're going to want to be benefiting from that draw power. A twist they've added to deck building is that some characters come in a rare version. These versions of the cards have slightly tweaked artwork and different or better abilities than the standard card, and count towards the playset of those cards. The thing is, you are only allowed 10 rare variants in your deck total, so you can at most get 3 full playsets of rares in your deck to play around with. Also, there are unique cards, which I did not see in this playtest, but apparently their effect is randomly generated from a list they've created. I do worry something busted might emerge from this that benefits literally one player because they are, again, unique cards. Like if somebody pulls the Forbidden One wearing a Black Lotus lapel and a Moxen on each finger. But it seems like if a unique is too busted and keeps winning events, that they have a retirement system in place. I guess the idea is to make the game genuinely unpredictable because there's always the possibility of a unique appearing with something you haven't accounted for, though whether that is good or bad, I admit, is a matter of taste. There are 6 regions, which are sadly not mixable, oops that's a sin, though apparently multi-region cards will be a thing, and each one has their own idiom. For example, red is aggressive and all about boosting, green anchors characters with their roots, blue plays like White Weenie, and pink manipulates dice rolls into creating huge monstrous characters that stay in play permanently turn after turn with anchoring effects to totally block your opponent out of playing! Yeah, the pink deck is sorta busted. And that's coming from the guy who was using the deck. The idea is that a lot of effects rely on dice rolls to make it more volatile, random, and difficult to control, but there are many mechanics that nullify that randomness by letting you roll more dice and pick your results, or that increase the value of your rolls to make monstrous characters that use anchor effects to keep them in play. But they had other decks as well, and those decks used different mechanics that had different win conditions. For example, the alternative pink deck had a win condition where if you had 3 cards each with a different status element in play, you win. And I'm sure a lot will happen before launch. I predict a nerf for Kasirga Legerdemain in particular, and its rare version, Ace Player. This was the card that most enabled all those pink shenanigans. My prediction is that their bonus dice ability will be made into a once per turn non-stackable effect. That, I think, would fix a lot. Otherwise, they're an essential 3-of for pink, even nerfed. The other deck I tried was Purple Advanced, where you're supposed to use mechanics that sacrifice creatures to stack tokens that let you untap mana for big plays. The problem was this strategy came at the severe cost of muscle, as all of the minions designed to be sacrificed cluttered the deck, and the deck honestly had literally just 1 card with any power above 3. Overall though, I think it's a pretty good game. It's a combination of fresh ideas and mechanics I haven't seen in a long time, or that come from obscure places. We played using mats, but considering that you set up your hero cards and the track in a way that naturally divides the lanes, means that mat-free play is totally viable. The colors all have a distinct and easily readable character to them. It uses the resource system of Duel Masters, but nothing else, and I don't think I've seen a system like the reserve mechanic before. The fact that both players get a limited number of better cards adds a new dimension of deck building over where the improved versions should go, and I imagine it will make sideboard play, if any, very interesting. I think this game has a lot of interesting potential. It, at the very least, ditched the life point and direct combat mechanics we've seen so many games do lately, the ones that I lament as yet another Duel Masters clone. The fact that they added what I think are interesting steps to deck building and turn-by-turn play is at least worthy of study. Now, I'd say it's up to them to make sure it's promoted properly. Just be careful, too much hype can bite you in the end. Thanks again for Altered for letting me take a look at this game, and until next time, this is Kohdok signing off.